Fallout London should scare Bethesda. At this point, honestly, Bethesda should be scared of its own shadow.
Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today. I hope all of you are doing absolutely fantastic. And let's cut to the chase, shall we? Fallout London really has been the gift that keeps on giving. The more I play it, the more I love it. And not just the case of, ooh, more Fallout.
By the way, considering real-world events, Fallout London is currently a real-time simulator of the UK. It's great.
Give me that. But really in a manner of rethinking what Fallout can be.
And if you're from the UK and you're gonna say something bad, think about it again before I report you to the police and you get sent to prison. And yes, prison for, being a bad man online and posting negative comments. That can happen.
I find it truly impressive, not just on an effort level from a group of volunteers, but also just the way it transcends what Fallout can be. And not only based on my experience with this mod, but also the community sentiment, I do think Fallout London should scare Bethesda. Now, before I go any further, it's going to sound like I'm going to be critical and dismissive of other people's work as I move into my script. I want to clarify I'm not, and the videos and articles I'm referring to I have read, watched, and enjoyed, and you should check
Oi, it's a rubbish bin, mate, yeah?
them out too. Let's begin. You see, as someone who's covered Bethesda game studios for an extremely long period of time, I'm used to the cycle of big mods hitting the scene and then videos like this being made talking about how, Bethesda doesn't look as good in comparison to the
Hey, it's Legacy Kill HD. That's a good guy.
latest community efforts. It's happened time in, time out. And I think for the most part, videos like these, articles like these were easy for Bethesda to ignore, even if what was in them was pretty good, sensible stuff.
Who isn't desperate for a new Vegas?
Now, usually, not in the cases of the ones I'm showing on screen here, these are done while ignoring common issues like the lore not being considered in the Fallout canon, therefore going by with little scrutiny, or the actual quality issues within the mod being...
Who cares about the lore at this point? Bethesda made the Fallout TV show. Listen, you can't tell me that the Fallout TV show wasn't the most lore-destroying event in all of Fallout's history, and then say, oh, I care about the lore. No, the Fallout TV show completely retconned almost everything about everything that has happened in the series so far. So if you're gonna tell me that the TV show was fine and say, oh, other mods retconned the lore and they're bad, you're such a hypocrite. You're such a loser hypocrite.
I think a little overly forgiven, like level design, crashes, glitched quests, many fetch quests, and all of these are pretty consistent at times.
Glitch quests, crashes, and overall bugs is a Bethesda hallmark. So you're telling me that being accurate to the Bethesda lore.
Fallout London, not destroying my experience, but definitely something worthwhile. And how Bethesda is avoiding the mod is another talking point in order to apparently protect their ego when they literally hire the modders from the team. And even more recently, many do.
Yeah, but, that's still... hiring... what's the best part about these mods coming out? Some of these mods come out, and then Bethesda does actually legitimately hire people from these mods. And then some magically how the people from these mods turn into absolutely drooling morons who can't do anything right. And then you get, your next iteration of whatever Bethesda slop that's currently cooking. Bethesda takes people that to have talent, have passion, and seemingly just completely eviscerate them. That's what they seemingly do.
Disregard how Fallout the Frontier was a massive disaster ahead of its launch, where people were expressing problems with Bethesda game studios, not really saying anything about the mod, but then during release week, they looked kind of smart for it. It also strangely creates a combative relationship between the mod creators and Bethesda game studios. Many of these modders, not all...
Wait. Is Todd's Howard chair higher than this guy's? So they seem to be equally high? Even though this guy is clearly sitting in the chair like a chair, but while Todd Howard is like, a spoiled child just kicking his legs on it. Kind of looks like it. And I feel pain for that chair right there. That chair has seen more horrors than a lot of us.
Relationship between the mod creators and Bethesda Game Studios. Many of these modders, not all, just love Bethesda Game Studios experiences and aim to make their own in the hopes of being hired by them, yet the audiences that play them at times will pit them against one another. Now,
Yeah.
all of this is going to sound like I'm lifting my shield.
Why not? I see no reason why not to.
Saying, back up, all right? Don't criticize my Bethesda too much, okay? Enough of that. But that's where the nuance kicks in, my fair viewer. Let's continue. The reality is that this time, things are different. This time, I think there's actually a case to be made on why Fallout London should scare Bethesda Game Studios. More and more of Bethesda's fans, even the ones who still enjoy their stuff, are recognizing that the needle hasn't really been moved in a considerable way for the industry by Bethesda Game Studios since 2011 with
But what about Starfield, the greatest game ever made?
Skyrim. They've moved their own needle, so to speak. You know, if you're a big fan of them, you've noticed multiplayer and creation engine sounded insane, but they figured that out with Fallout 76, and now it's a little bit more redeemable. Starfield's scale and scope for the team size that was working on it is impressive in its own manner of speaking. But there
Nothing is impressive about Starfield.
is more expected from Bethesda Game Studios. And those who are deeply submerged in that bubble, say someone like myself who loves their games and plays them often, can recognize the progress individually from the team of roughly 400 developers that's split among multiple projects. However, it should also be understood that this is considered differently from industry standards. There's Bethesda Game Studios.
Why would I care? What is normal for game standards? What is normal for... I'm a consumer. I don't care about this. I literally could not care less, in fact. Just give me a good game. I don't know. I don't care how much, how little, how whatever you need to do to make it happen. I just care about the end result.
Studio standards, and there are industry standards. It's a big gap between the two, and I don't really mean that in a disrespectful
Any standard but the consumer standard should be ignored.
way. For example, Cyberpunk 2077 provides far better gunplay, visuals, and first-person immersive qualities than really any recent BGS game I've played. By a country mile, in fact. A Bethesda game...
Well, it's better than literally any Bethesda Game Studios game ever made. That's kind of the thing.
Game Studios continued on the same trajectory after Skyrim, this wouldn't be something I or many others would be saying. So why am I saying all this? It's because the reality of Bethesda Game Studios being lapped by its competitors has been real, as it's been documented many times since Starfield's launch. And now what's starting to set in is that their fans...
Of course that has been real. Everyone knew it since New Vegas. New Vegas is the best critically acclaimed Fallout game in history. The most beloved one. And it's not made by Bethesda. We already knew this. This is nothing new to everyone.
Are starting to lap them in particular areas as well, which I know the modding tools are very impressive and powerful for Bethesda Game Studios, but that shouldn't simply be the case. The bigger problem yet is that instead of industry leaders like they once were, Bethesda Game Studios is becoming a bit of a guilty pleasure for many of its fans. Now with Fallout London, the claims of them just being lapped in general feels more legitimate than ever. Now this is because Fallout London is showing what kind of deep, thoughtful role-playing experience is packed within Bethesda's tech. This goes back to something I've said a nauseating amount of time.
Wait, what do you mean? Are you telling me Starfield's amazing? Oh, it's a clone, but it's a female clone of the person. And my pronouns is not thought-provoking deep. You know, lore and world building and stuff. You bigot. How dare you, Matty, you absolute bigot.
I have never laid the blame at the feet of Creation Engine because to
You
me,
should.
it just never made any sense. You see what is possible with the modding tools, and that is what enables a lot of what makes Bethesda Game Studios games special, is the ability to customize them and make experiences like Fallout London. More importantly, is because of how you can find deep, thoughtful role-playing experiences packed within said technology. Fallout London wields Creation Engine to craft an authentic, UK-centric Fallout experience.
Okay.
Starfield wielded it to generate over 1,000 planets. Each requires its
Starfield wielded it to do nothing.
own focus. Each nets various positives and negatives, with the positives far outweighing the negatives for Fallout London, given, it's a free mod, essentially delivering more of something that we know we like. It is that maximized potential of the technology being put in the direction of an idea we can all get behind that, if you will, is the nucleus for this feedback. Mind you, this isn't disregarding that mods like Fallout London, in a sense, do find themselves in the same position as Fallout New Vegas. What I mean by that is, hey, developer, here's the tools, here's the tech, we got it all covered, go make something with it now. Fallout London has been in development since 2019, and in about 5 years, they made a DLC-sized mod that's on.
So, in 5 years, they made a mod bigger than the base game, effectively, more beloved than the base game, and more critically acclaimed than the base game, and they did it in half the time that it requires for Bethesda to make a full game.
Honestly, it may as well be a full game. Now, as someone who's covered a ton of mods, this is extremely impressive. I mean, especially considering the scale of it, it's surprising it came out in 5 years. Many, as you've already known, are in development for close to a decade due to overambitious visions and spotty development timelines, since they're always volunteer projects. So sometimes things are hot, sometimes they're not, because it's kind of an opt-in, opt-out process, and you take what you can get. For Fallout London to deliver new quests and content is one thing, but to overhaul the entire Fallout experience from art to music to even random clutter in the environment is another. It's an achievement, and rightfully it's being treated as such. And that's what lands us here, where you have videos like this, which were probably easy for Bethesda and co to ignore back then, but now, not so much. And that's what should scare Bethesda game studios. The leash is getting tighter, and the demand for a world-class experience is growing while they divert their focus into multiple projects. More than anything, the noise has been unsurprisingly growing when it comes to Fallout getting smaller spin-off games. Not in the sense you'd expect, though. Of course, we know that Bethesda could stand to do more with Fallout, but I mean that with these mods merely not just adding content, but actually attempting to capture more beyond the BGS experience. In Fallout London, there are sections with attempts at horror, and good attempts at that. This totally caught me off guard when I was playing the game. There's moments where you can just rotate the butterfly knife.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I didn't understand what that was at the start, but that's a sewage system, and he's getting flushed. Okay.
Around your finger by standing still. A sense of style. And
oh, please. Every Brit is born with that.
It's really just pouring out of this game. That's something that I've never really seen from Bethesda Game Studios, personally, where it looks like you're flexing your weapons. Or just attempting to flip a franchise on its head. The problem with Fallout 4, for many people among its other issues, was Fallout 4 felt like more Fallout. As a diehard Fallout fan, sure, I'll take it. But for people who expect something from Bethesda Game Studios in a big, meaningful way, going from Skyrim to Fallout 4, it didn't really move the needle. It just did more. But it's not pushing the boundaries of what Bethesda Game Studios can possibly do. Now, this isn't to completely dunk on Bethesda Game Studios, because I do think at times...
You should. Why people are trying to avoid the dunk on Bethesda? They're failures. They're absolute inept losers. They brought you Starfield. By the same writer who made Fallout 4 into a worse version than Fallout, previously to that. It is such an absolute disappointment. And you're like, still, oh no, but there's the game studios. Yeah, well, what needs to happen now? Elder Rings, lol. Elder Scrolls 6 needs to be complete trash, so people give up on this. A lot of people already have given up on Elder Scrolls 6 after what they saw that Starfield did, because it's going to be the same engine, it's going to be the same people, it's going to be the same writer, and from Starfield, it's going to be trash.
The great things they do are completely overlooked. The modding tools themselves, I think there are great moments in Starfield. The fact that the ship feels incredibly good still to this day is one of the most mind-blowing aspects about that game. I love the customization for the ship. I also think there's actually legitimately great horror-centric moments in...
Anyone who says they love the customization for the ship in Starfield have not actually tried fully customizing the ship. The menu is completely ass.
In Starfield, I love the zero-gravity combat. Bethesda Game Studios can do some really good stuff. I just think when you look at what Fallout London is doing with a smaller team, it really feels like an experience we've been asking from Bethesda Game Studios or a partner of theirs for a long while, and people want that to be more legitimized than ever before. The reality is, as we all know, these types of projects work. More Fallout, good. And I apologize for being a broken record here, but Yeah, popular series like Fallout should be experimenting with all sorts of genres and scales because their popularity affords them to. Same goes for Elder Scrolls, but you've heard this conversation from me a million times before, so I'll stop there. And not to really spiral the conversation too much, but there are many fans.
Elder Scrolls doesn't work. Fallout is a much, much, much better and recognizable IP than Elder Scrolls. No, it's only recently, honestly, in the past couple of years, that we use Elder Scrolls as a way to identify even, the franchise. People previously didn't really use Elder Scrolls as an identifier for the games because Elder Scrolls is just super generic. That's it. It's the most generic fantasy thing ever. Fallout technically is also super generic, but it's unique and distinct enough that everyone can tell that it's Fallout. The Brotherhood of Steel, ghouls, super mutants, the radioactive wasteland, the style, the look, the feel, no micro transistor being created. All of that stuff creates something that feels unique. Fallout is a juggernaut of an IP. It's super easy to recognize, it's super easy to understand. It has a lot of interesting things already in it. It's a juggernaut. The Bethesda is completely squandering away with Fallout 76. Imagine how much could be done with Fallout as an IP if it wasn't owned by a bunch of useless losers like Bethesda and Todd Howard. Imagine how much we could have gotten if it wasn't owned by Bethesda, but it sadly is. Elder Scrolls is not even that recognizable as a franchise no longer. It's just that medieval magic sort of play sandbox ground type of thing. It's just the truth.
Expressing legitimate concerns with Elder Scrolls 6, and could you blame them at this point? I personally do have a level of confidence since it seems like Starfield's almost the procedurally generated experience from Bethesda Game Studios, and then we have something like Fallout.
What do you mean almost? Starfield is a fully procedurally generated thing.
Which is more...
That's why it's bad.
Shooter focused, and then Elder Scrolls is seeming to shape up to be like the adventuring series, like go where you want, be who you want. And so
that's such an absolutely horrible way to describe it, but that's okay. Anyway, Bethesda is trash. And that's pretty much it. That was Mr. Matty Plays. Bye-bye.